It was a moment where I looked around and they were all looking because they know who's new and who's not when you come in. They test you out for sure. They would test you out with a few, ask you questions that you would have no idea on how to answer because it's out of the realm. Some of my best days are having a good laugh.
Yeah.
Like you can have a good laugh with the prisoners. Look at this now, like you're on the other side. Now I'm telling you what to do, when you can move, when you can't move. And he loved it. The role was reversed.
The I Catch Killers podcast was a fresh start for me as I left policing behind and started a new life. Over the years, we've laughed together, cried, and shared some powerful moments. Welcome to I Catch Killers. Welcome to another episode of I Catch Killers. With the assistance and cooperation of Corrections Victoria, the I Catch Killers podcast is having a look into life behind prison from all sides. Last episode, we were speaking to Clint Walker. This episode, we're talking to Kylie Davey. Kylie was a registered nurse for 27 years, but after speaking to a friend working as a corrective services officer, she was inspired to change careers and start working in the prison. This is her story. Kylie Davey, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Thank you, Gary. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate you taking your time, and I'm fascinated by your career, that you were a registered nurse for 27 years.
That's correct.
And now you're working in corrective services. So where did the desire to serve the public, whether it be in as a nurse or as a corrective services officer?
So growing up, year 12, I just finished my schooling and all my friends were going off to do nursing. So it was sort of that age group that you sort of went off and did the nursing because it was a good career with all the rosters and it being a government job.
Yeah.
It was a long-term thing. You'd do it, go and have your family, come back.
And a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and lots of fun with a great team of people,
Yeah.
I love the teamwork.
Okay, so corrective services, when you're working as a nurse, did you ever figure you might be wearing a blue uniform and strutting around prisons?
No, not at all. Like for me, I was always nursing, but as we said, 27 years, I sort of reached where I needed to be, had done everything I wanted to go and do. So I was getting towards my 40s, so I was like, I need to perhaps think of what else I can do. And the corrections was just a sideways step across.
Okay. What sort of nursing were you doing?
I was in all kinds of nursing. So I've done aged care, a little bit of mental health, worked with children. Yeah, so pretty much all areas, as well as like some accident and emergency.
So you've been there, done that, seen
lots of things,
a lot. So what inspired you to jump ship and become a prison officer?
Yeah, so my partner is a supervisor at the prison that I'm working at, and she's been in her career for 22 years.
Yeah.
So listening to her stories, often with her team, we'd go out for Christmas, birthdays. So all celebrations that they would have in their unit, with their career advancements, whatever, they'd go out and have a dinner. And they were really a big team, like a family.
This is the corrective services
crew.
Yeah,
so her crew would all get together and they'd celebrate their birthdays and things. So we'd go and meet everyone. There'd always be a speech. There'd always be... Fiona would cry because she was so proud of her team. So they'd be celebrating. She'd have a little speech and cry.
Nothing like a couple of glasses of wine.
Correct. And then so the person who she was talking to, they would have a cry because she was having a cry. You could just see the closeness, and it was just a really nice bond and a team that I really thought that was what I would like to do as well.
Okay. Well, that sort of gave you an insight into prison officers and the type of people. But before you got with your partner or knew your partner, what was your perception of prison officers before that?
I had no idea what I was stepping into. It's sort of, you've watched the television shows, you've got a perception that it's just all like walking corridors and locking the prisoners up, and not much more. But it's completely different to that. You spend a lot of time one-on-one with the prisoners, helping them to get their needs. Yeah,
and I think that's the public's perception, that it's guided by what we see on TVs and movies, and generally you see the prison officers walking around with a big set of keys hanging off their belt, twirling a baton, and with a snarly look on their face, or making smart-ass comments to the prisoners.
Absolutely.
That seems to be the perception. The more I've got to see inside prisons, the more I've realised that is so far from the reality. It's not funny. The other thing about prison officers, and I've had a couple on the podcast over the years, is that invariably we don't hear anything about prison officers unless someone's made a mistake, as in a prison officer has made a mistake. That's when the prison officers seem to be front and centre, front page of the paper. Prison officers seem to have done this, or all sorts of things that come out of the prison. It's an unfair rap, really, isn't it?
It is, because we do so much. Like we're there to help them to reintegrate into the community. So we've got a lot of work to do to make sure they're doing their offending programs. That's why they're here. So we're trying to help them gain education, trying to get to upskill to get jobs for when they do get out. So, and housing, like we are full on helping with all their needs they possibly need to get out and survive so they don't come back in.
Well, the thing I saw when I went in doing the podcast Breaking Badness, where I was let into prison after I left the police, was the amount of interaction between the corrective services staff and the prisoners. Like, it's not, they're all behind that gate and you're not, you're in there, you're mixing with them, they're talking to them. So obviously they're going to have an influence on you and you're going to have an influence on them because it's just human nature.
Like even the other day in the unit, I was sitting down with the prisoner and I was helping him write an application, had to book a visit with his family. Yeah. And he didn't have the skills to actually write the application. So you're sitting down with them, you're writing out the application for them, you're helping them to book the visit. And it's just a nice environment. They are grateful. They're more grateful.
Little things like that. And I saw that in the cops, that some people that they didn't want to, they would get themselves into trouble, as in turn it on and create dramas because they didn't want to put their hand up that they didn't know how to read or write.
That's right,
and, yeah, little things like that. So if you can help people, I can see how that would be rewarding. Just winding it back to your career in nursing. Yeah. Did that turn out to be what you expected nursing to be when you signed? Well, I suppose when you signed up, like when I signed up for the cops, I had no idea what I was walking into. Did you get a reward and enjoyment from your career in nursing?
Like helping people, that's like empathy. You've got to have that in you, I think. You've got to be the right type of person for that kind of job. Yeah. And I think, staying in there for 27 years, it certainly saw me through. Yeah. And gained lots of experience, and having come across to corrections, I could bring it straight across. So I didn't have any concerns.
What were the skills that you took from nursing across to corrections?
So having the empathy, having people skills, being able to relate to people, the non-judgmental approach, like people are coming in at their most horrible times or whatever, and you're there to help them and make them feel better and that kind of thing. So just the positivity.
Knowing how to diffuse situations. A couple of weeks ago, I spent some time waiting for a friend in accident emergency at a busy city hospital, and I was surprised how the nurses had to just keep everyone calm because people going off on all sorts of things. Yeah,
they can, in tangents, and whatever mental state they're at the time makes a big difference too. So when you're in the corrections, though, you'll learn, you've been trained on how to de-escalate. So there's lots of role plays that you do to get your skills up. So you come out the other side and you're ready to go. You know exactly how to read the play.
So your partner aside, because I'm assuming she supported your decision to go across.
Yes, absolutely.
You're 40 or about to turn 40, and you've said to people, guess what? They've thought of you as a nurse for your whole working career. Yeah. I'm changing careers. Yeah. What was the reaction you got from family and friends?
Yeah, so I didn't tell too many people, just in case it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So, but when I got through the recruitment stage, then I told everyone, obviously, because I knew then I was in the right direction. Yeah. And I did have to say, look, I am working into a male prison. Yeah. And everyone couldn't believe. They're like, why would you give up such a great career as a female going into a male prison? Like, why would you put yourself in harm's way, basically? Yeah. However, I found that in my nursing role, you quite often could get assaulted more so in the nursing job than what I have ever in the corrections. Yeah. They're more respectful, I think, in corrections.
I think that's a fair thing. Okay, so you dispelled the rumours that you're having a midlife crisis.
Yes, I had to do that too, yes.
She's lost the plot.
She has, and she's just wanting to do what her partner does, and it was nothing to do with that at all. It looked like a very rewarding career and a sidestep for me. And
so what's the process? You applied, you go through an assessment?
So I was told that there was advertising, corrections were advertising, so I applied online, answered a couple of questions, and then just waited to hear back. Then there was a phone interview. So prior to that, I had a whole table full of pages of what I would say, what I thought the job was. There's only 2 questions I think they asked, what's the job that you think that they do, prison officers? Yeah, and what can you bring? Okay. So I had a lot of scenarios written out that I'd done in my previous job, and they only asked me probably, like the 2 questions, and that was it really. I could sell myself quite well with the skills that I had.
So in New South Wales, they have an academy where the corrective services go there for, I'm not sure how long the course is. Yeah. Did you have to go and do a course?
Yeah, you do. So there's an 8-week training process. Yep. It's off campus, but you also do placement on campus for a couple of weeks.
What did that involve?
So you're basically doing group work. You're learning how to de-escalate. You're learning your self-defense techniques.
Yeah.
Learning all the roles of what a prison officer is, and just having everything ready to go, like all your skills in both practical and school sort of time, class time.
Coming from nursing, where you're helping people, and I'm not saying you don't help people as corrective services, but there's a side of corrective services, as there is with policing. Sometimes you've got to take control of people. And I know going through the academy, the first time that you're given a gun, or the first time that you've actually got and it's role playing, but handcuff someone.
Yes,
and that.
yeah.
Was that confronting to you coming
Yeah,
from
it was.
nursing? Because it's okay. All of a sudden, come here, hands behind your back. Cuff.
I do. I remember my first time I had to go into a unit and pat down all the prisoners that were coming out because they were going to be doing searches in the unit, and having these big, tall, grown men come at you. I'm 5'2", and they're heavily, some of them are quite heavily tattooed. They're coming straight at you. They're staring you down, and you have to actually physically touch them and pat them down. It was quite intimidating to start with.
Yeah.
However, once you settle in, it becomes quite the norm.
If it's not in your nature, and I don't think it's in most people's nature, but when you're taking control of someone else, you sit here, you do this, you do that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you had to get used to?
I do, yeah. I at the start, like you said, it was quite uncommon for me to be giving so many directions. You still have to give directions in your nursing, but this was a more formal directive sometimes. So practice made perfect, really.
Was there any, in that training, that 8-week training period, was there any time when you thought, shit, what am I doing?
A couple of times, there was, because we had some staff that were doing the roles of the prisoners.
Yeah.
And they would really ham it up for you, so you knew what you were getting into. Because if you had no idea, you've got no idea what the language or how they react. Yeah. So there was times that I would stop and think, I have no idea what I'm saying here. Why did I do this? Am I going to be okay at the end? But being in a team, and you're all in there together. I had a group of 27 in my squad. Yeah. So we all got in together. And we got on really well.
What was the mix like? Male, female, ages, careers?
Yeah, right across the board.
So
our youngest,
diversity?
our youngest was probably, early 20s.
Yeah.
And our oldest was probably, like myself, like going in from in their 40s. So
yeah.
Wide range. Teachers, farmers, mums, stay-at-home mums. Like, there was a whole range of different diversity.
And what was motivating all these people from different ages and careers? What was bringing them to that line of work, do you think?
I think they were just ready for a change also. Like, some of them use it as a stepping stone to get into VicPol once they've done their training. They realise that this is the directive they want to go to. Others, like some of the mums, they were like, I'm earning money to train, and I'm also now got my own income that I can put aside, and you can make really good money with the hours that we do. So a lot of them were looking forward, like it was a pay rise for a few of them. Yeah.
Okay. So you've done your training, you've got your uniform. How did it feel first time in your uniform?
Yeah, first day it's hard to look at yourself. I found like you're completely different to what you thought you were going to look like. But there's pride too, because you've made it. You've made it. Yeah. You're going to be someone who's got the skills once you've completed your training to be a good officer. Okay,
they've done all the prep for you, the role playing, all the training, but nothing prepares you for that first day when you walk in the prison and you've got your uniform on. Yep. You're now one of the prison officers, and they're the inmates. What sort of reaction, or how did that feel to you when you walked in there?
Yeah, it was a moment where I looked around and they were all looking, because they know who's new and who's not when you're coming in. Because they've lived there. They've been living in that accommodation unit for a few years.
Scared look on your face and the new
possibly
shiny uniform and everything
the very
else.
Brand new crisp shirts, that they know you're new. Yeah. And they test you out for sure. They would test you out with a few, ask you questions that you would have no idea on how to answer because it's out of the realm. Yeah. But they were setting you up to see how you would answer it, or that's just building rapport. I think they like to build the rapport with you, because ideally you're there to help them, so they want to be on the right foot, really.
So describe that first, not an orientation day, but your first working day where, okay, this is it, you're part of the shift. What did you do?
So first day, I think I'm pretty much shadowed, because you always work with another colleague, so you're partnered up all day. So you take on whatever they take on. You go out and do
this is for the first early stages of your career.
First day. So I was in an accommodation unit. So unlocking the prisoners in the morning and counting them, that was our first job for the day. So I walked around with someone, and I was just by their side all day. It's like shadowing all day. So I sort of got a feel for what you had to do. Even though you're counted as a team member, it was still
Yeah.
a lot of shadowing just to get your confidence
A
up.
male prison?
Male prison.
Yeah, and what type of crimes and that? What classification were the prisoners?
We're medium where we are at the moment.
Yep.
So we have short-term prisoners.
Yep.
So I'd say maybe some traffic offences, some drug alcohol behaviours,
Yep.
fraud. And then we have the longer term ones that are sort of towards, they've already done like 2/3 of their sentence. So they've done a good maybe 5-8 years
Yeah.
of their sentence.
so
So they're ready to come out and be reintegrated.
Whole range of offences.
That's right,
that they cover.
Yep.
So it usually takes a couple of months to feel that you're part of something.
Yep.
When did you feel like, okay, this is a career for me? At what point in time did you think, I'm enjoying this?
Yeah, I think it probably took a good 6 months, 6 to 12 months for me to feel settled. I worked right across the prison in all the different areas. I worked next door at another prison, which was a medium or minimum security.
Yeah.
I've also worked at the women's prison. So that was more of an open camp prison. So I tried to get as much experience across all the areas to see whether it was for me. And then I felt comfortable with the role. So I thought, well, this is definitely where I want to be. I wasn't going to go back to nursing after that.
Okay, because that's always an option that you've got, isn't it?
I did keep myself open for nursing in case it didn't turn out, but I haven't looked back.
And you'll get, I would imagine, nursing, just by the nature of the work, and if you're the type of person that's got empathy and like there to serve the public, that would be very rewarding.
Yeah.
Can you get that type of reward doing what you're doing?
Absolutely.
The prison officer?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
in what ways? What ways?
Yeah, so helping people to get where the courses that they need to do, or whether for parole, to reintegrate, to educate them. It's quite rewarding. You start at the very start. You're signing them up for courses. You're getting them into the course. You're making sure they still go into their courses to get their the completion of it. And then once they've done all that, then you know that they're ready to go.
So what sort of courses are we talking about?
So you can do some violent offender courses. There's drug alcohol courses. There's counselling.
Okay.
Anything that they've got within their crime.
And with those courses, like getting them enrolled, are you watching how they progress through those courses?
We send them out to a specific area, like
Yeah.
a centre where they go within the prison. So we start the ball rolling. We get them enrolled. We fill out the paperwork with them. Then they attend each week. So you prompt them. I know you have to prompt a few regularly to make sure they get there.
With the type of prisoners, I would imagine there's in any human relationship, there's different dynamics. What did you notice about the dynamics between corrective services officers and prisoners when you first came in? The blue and the green that we talk of.
Yeah, there was a sort of a divide between the blue and the green, but I think they're still quite respectful. Being a female in blue, particularly, there's not many out there. They were more respectful.
Explain that, the difference or the dynamics between the male inmates and female corrective service officers.
Yeah, I think the inmates are happy. Like if there's language and that going on, it's quite funny. They will be quite respectful of the language, and they will tell other prisoners if you're using quite colourful language, they will tell them to pull their head in. Yeah, like that. It is a surprise, like because they are big fellas, and they do speak different on the inside, but they are respectful enough to pull them up on that.
Have you
ever
had situations that you were afraid?
Probably a couple. Firstly, when you first come in, obviously, and you see your first code, that's something. It might not involve you directly. It might be just involving two prisoners out in the yard or something. They're having a disagreement and it gets quite heated. It escalates quite quickly. And also, but then more directly in the unit or wherever you are, if you're having that one-on-one, just knowing that someone then might not be against you. It might be that they've had a situation out in the yard or speaking to someone, but they come back into the unit and they're quite worked up. Yeah. So you've got to allow them to vent. Like you've got to know the difference which you do in your training as to what's a venting and what's having a go at you and wanting to cause harm. So you learn your situational awareness. You learn how to read the play, read the body language.
You mentioned code situation. My understanding is if there's a situation escalating in the prison and certain codes for, it might be a potential for a violent escalation.
That's right.
What have you seen with that?
Okay, so you often will hear someone, a prison officer, say they've seen it because you're always, as I said, we're always watching out in the yard. There's always someone patrolling. They may see two prisoners scuffling on the ground. Yeah. So the first instance is to call a code over your radio or push your duress button, which will pinpoint you in the control centre where you are.
Yeah.
So the cameras come straight onto you. So everyone's well aware of where the code is, what the situation is. You've got a response team. If you're first there, you're not jumping in and separating prisoners who are fighting.
Yeah.
You're telling everyone to get back. You're giving directions. You're telling them to calm down, to sit down, move away.
Yeah.
You're just constantly giving that verbal command, and they'll either listen or they won't. But usually they tire themselves out by the time they've
punched themselves.
They're ready to just separate and we take them to to management unit or back to the unit.
You mentioned you've got your alarm there, and is that with all officers that if there's a duress or you activate that?
Yeah, so in the morning before you even start, you go through and you collect your radio, you collect your duress. So you're wearing it the minute you step inside the prison.
Yeah.
So they're there for you if you feel like you're under duress or you see a code or a potential code.
And there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think was it one prison that might be all prisons. If you're meant to be vertical, if you go horizontal with that,
it sets it off.
Activates.
Yeah, that's right. It does activate.
So if you've been attacked and you're not conscious,
it'll pick up that you
pick up, and that pinpoints where you are, and the cameras.
The cameras are great.
The cameras, they're retrospective cameras. They can rewind back on what's happened. It's amazing.
We rely, you can rely quite heavily on things that you might have missed.
I think the advantage for prisoners trying to escape is diminishing with all the electronics that's available now.
Definitely, yeah.
It's not a matter of just cutting the wire fence or digging a tunnel.
No.
It gets harder
The cameras
and harder.
are there, they pick up all the movement.
And that must give you...
It's reassuring too for us.
I was going to say that. That must give you the feeling of safety. There's no blind spots.
I can walk quite freely through the prison with another staff member, or I can walk 5 metres by myself somewhere and have that confidence that
people know where you are.
People know where I am. You always communicate. I'm going here, I'm going there. So people know. People are watching all the time.
Okay. Well, in the times I've gone into prisons, and as a police officer or as a journalist, I haven't been in there as an inmate. Fingers crossed, that's not going not going to happen. But it is an intense atmosphere. You walk in there, and sometimes you can feel the vibe of the jail. I've heard corrective services officers say to me when I walk in as a police officer, "Look, there's a lot going on at the moment. There's something's upset the inmates, and there's something brewing." Do you get that sense when you go to work sometimes?
Yeah, you do sometimes, because you're always watching.
Yeah.
So you're always watching what's going on. You can hear if there's something happening. Raised voices, or it might be music, or it might be just silence, and that's also something that you don't hear a lot of. There's always music going, there's always TVs on or something, but then you do get that feel sometimes that something's about to hit. You don't know where it's coming from particularly, but there's that feel, or the prisoner movement changes.
There's something.
So they're heading towards the door, and to look outside, there's obviously something going to happen down the track.
And is that something you pick up the longer you stay in the prisons? You start to read it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you bring that on when you're off duty as well.
Yeah.
Like when you're out in public or what have you, like going out for dinner or whatever, you can't turn it off. Yeah.
No, you see when someone's about to. There's one thing having an argument, but you can also tell when someone's about to throw the first punch.
That's right.
Kick.
Yeah, you do. You sharpen your tools very quickly.
Yeah. Role models that you had going in at, for all intents and purposes, 27 years in nursing. That's a full career. So you're changing career relatively late.
Yes.
Did you find that you had good role models there? And what were you looking for in role models, other prison officers that you could learn from?
Yeah. So I definitely, like I said, had my partner who has been in the job for 20 odd years. So she was my first role model.
Yep.
I could tell her professionalism. I could see the way she liked to run the show in her unit because I had worked with her before.
Yep.
So she was my first role model, and then others in the supervisor area and the leadership teams. You can quickly pick who's a good worker, who's got good ethics. That's what I roll myself against.
I was going to ask that, just expand on that. What aspects or characteristics are a good role model?
Yeah, I think being open and genuine with the prisoners and with your staff as well. Like having those conversations, difficult conversations when you have to, and how they carry themselves and staying true to their word. If they say they're going to do something, they do it, and they don't put it off, or they don't wait till they give it to someone else to do if there's, they haven't got time or they can't be bothered. Right. I think, the standard is quite high.
What are you looking for when you're in a good prison officer in the way that they deal with the inmates? What do you think's a good way of dealing with the inmates?
Yeah, I think communication is your first key. Like if you can communicate quite openly, your body language, your tone, I think that's a good start. Yeah.
Have you got examples that you've been involved in, or you've seen someone else where something's brewing and it's the way the prison officer has handled it that's de-escalated it, or turned a potentially volatile situation into something better?
Yeah, there has been a couple of times where I've let the prison officer have their time with the prisoner, explaining as much as they can on what they can and can't do. And when it hits that point where I can see that the prisoner's not happy with the answer, and I can tell they're going to maybe voice a bit harder or take a swing, you step in then and try and de-escalate and get them to come and sit with you somewhere else, like take them away from the area and not put them on show in front of everyone else. Like they often like to be in control, so they don't like it when you like identify an issue with them in front of everybody else.
That's a skill not dissimilar to what I saw in good police officers, that you don't put people on show. And by that I mean I use examples that early in a policing career you might be called to a pub and you've got to ask someone to leave. Now this big tough guy's standing there in front of his mates, no, piss off copper, I'm not going to leave. And I see people diffuse it by saying something simple like, look, if I'm going to have to get you to leave. I don't want to fight you because you'll probably beat me, but you're going to have to leave anyway. And all of a sudden this big buffhead has decided that, I've proved to my mates that I'm a tough guy, I can now leave with dignity.
Yes, that's it.
About not putting them on show. That's
Absolutely.
just a small example. I saw it when I was doing the Breaking Badness stuff, that some of the prison officers did that very well. Like they'd let the prisoners are going to get bored and they're going to make smart-ass comments, and they are very funny too.
They are. Some of my best days are having a good laugh. Yeah. Like you can have a good laugh with the prisoners, absolutely.
And they, I think the way that it's got a good prison officer lets the prisoner have their laugh, lets them have their say, but still gets their point across in the end.
Yeah, you don't have to be having a shouting match. Yeah. It's not about that. It's about having calm demeanour. Yeah. And just diffusing it with your words and your actions, and like you said, not putting them on show and
letting them have their bit of fun. That's right. Area. When I went into the prison as an ex-cop, I was speaking to a group of prisoners, and this is the type of humour that I think's funny, and we're talking pretty well. We'd got all the argy-bargy out of the way and sitting down talking to them, and I said, okay, this is a platform for you guys to say what you want in prison, and any thoughts? And someone said, yes, mate, how about a set of keys and shut up?
Yeah, see? And it's funny.
Like that. And you can't help but laugh.
No, that's right. That. They are.
That's what
quite
they wanted
funny.
In prison, a set of keys.
Yeah.
So things like that. You would have seen some heartbreaking stuff. You're an empathetic person.
Yeah.
What's the sadness that you see in prisons? Because there is a lot of sadness that you do see when you go into a prison.
There is a lot of sadness. There's sadness amongst their families have broken down. Like some of them haven't had a very good upbringing.
Yeah.
So they've got that sadness coming. They feel like they've got no support. Yeah. Or they haven't seen their kids, or a parent is like in COVID, like the rest of the community when someone passed away, you were unable to attend the funeral, and that's a hard thing. Like they can't get out and go to the funeral. Yeah. We now are able to do Zooms where they can actually see it online now, and some of them can apply to go. But that was the heartbreak, I think. And children, like not having that constant rapport with their kids, it makes a difference for a lot of them.
Has to be soul destroying, I think, whether it's male, female, or whatever, the prisoners. But being in there, and I think the public, and I don't want to talk on behalf of the public, but I just say this, I say it with a bit of caution. A lot of times they think they should be punished when they're in jail. As in, I don't care if they're locked in the cells for 18 hours a day. I don't care if they get fed bread and water. But the punishment is being taken away from their families. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't think the public fully appreciate what it's like in there.
Yeah, until you've been in that situation, I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So the way that the courses, and you've said you like the work, you find it rewarding. Yeah. What is it about? Can you give an example of a prisoner that you've seen, come in there as the angry young man, or might be the angry old man, but have turned their life around? Have you got any examples?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've had a prisoner who, so he wanted to reconnect again with his children. And I've got him into it. There's programs in there that can do they make soft toys and read along dad's program. So it's to connect your kids. Yeah. They hand stitch these bears, and it is quite funny to see a 6-foot burly man sitting at a table, hand stitching, making an elephant for his children. Yeah. And, it is quite funny. It's not something that you would expect, whereas... And they'll say to me, come and have a look at this. Am I doing it right? Yeah, they are proud of it. And am I doing it right? And I can't even sew a button on. So I have no idea whether they're doing it right. It's not my thing. But, it's quite funny to see them sitting there or making cheesecakes. Yeah. I had a prisoner coming up to me and asked me what's the right biscuit for the base. Yeah. Again, I have absolutely, just because I'm the only female doesn't mean I know how to stitch, and that doesn't mean I know how to cook. And I certainly don't. So these qualities, they do. You can have a lot of fun and make it light, even though they're in a place where they are withdrawing.
Have you seen some prisoners, and if you've got an example of one that surprised you, how they've turned around since they've been in prison?
I have. So I had a prisoner on my caseload for probably about 4 years. So we'd built good rapport. I work hard at building rapport with everyone that I work with. Yep. So we all get along, and they respect when I can help them. Anyway, this fella, I got him onto a construction course. So it was like doing the stop and go, forklift license, elevated work platform, a few tickets that they could use on the outside for once they reintegrated. So I got him into that, and I had to harp on him every week. Make sure you turn up, make sure you get there on time, make sure you do your homework.
This is for the internal,
prisoner,
course.
On the inside while they're in. And then he did the course, and then he got out, and I saw him 2 years later. On my way home from work, I was stopped by roadworks. And I had the window down, and I was not paying much attention, but I got to the front of the line. I'm like, oh, thankfully, I'm not far from home. And I hear this, well, if it isn't Miss Davey. And I look around to my left, and here's this prisoner standing there who was on the caseload who had gone to got the course through. Yeah. So he'd done his course, he got out, and he was still in that area of work. And he's had a little chat to me. He's like, look at this now. You're on the other side. Now I'm telling you what to do, when you can move, when you can't move. And he loved it. The role was reversed. So we had a bit of a laugh about that, and then he let me go through. But I thought all the way home, we do make a difference. It just reminds me that you do make a difference. And he was making it for himself on the outside.
Again, that's the thing, that because jails is this world that people don't get to see, they don't understand that you can make a difference. And I'd say not just in the world of crime, but any area. One person can make a big difference to another person's life if they just show them respect or point them in a direction, just help or empathy.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of people might say if they're in jail, they're bad people because good people don't get sent to jail. I disagree. I've sent what I consider good people to jail when I was a cop because they'd done something bad. What's that's your attitude? Do you look at everyone in jail and go, well, they're bad people?
No, I think I look at prisoners as just people. They are they are people. They're unfortunate circumstances. They've made a mistake. It's not my place. Once they've already been through their sentence, through courts and whatever, it's not my place to judge them now. I don't look in to see what crimes they've committed. I just treat everyone exactly the same. Yeah. And I think that's a great attribute to have. Just to treat everyone the same. They're all people. We're all people. We've all got issues going on the outside or on the inside. They're all very similar.
Well, I pose this question: If you came in and someone just told you constantly you're a bad person, you're in here because you should be in here, you're a piece of shit, you're this, you're that, it's gonna be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, soul destroying.
If you just keep telling someone they're bad. So I suppose, and the only connection that the prisoners have, or the majority of the contact, is with the prison officers. So
that's right.
The way the prison officers treat the prisoners has a big impact on how the whole thing plays out.
Definitely, yeah. You want to be a role model. You want to help them with the basics. Yeah. You want them to succeed. You're in there, you want them to get out and keep the community safe. That's our job. Keep the community safe. Yeah. Have them reintegrated, ready to go. So when they do get out, they're making better choices.
Now, in saying that, people might say, "Oh, you're soft heart, bleeding heart. Look at you." But that's not the case.
No, not at all. You can have empathy. Yeah. You can be firm and fair. Yeah. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
And your primary role is making sure they stay within those walls.
That's right.
But the rest of it is hoping they don't come back.
That's it, yeah. They've got enough to do during their day. They're not locked up 24/7 like some people think. They are out there doing their courses or doing education. They are trying to better themselves. Yeah. So it's up to us to help support them do that.
Prison, by the very nature of it, people are going to misbehave and they're going to have to be disciplined. And how do you go about from it? It's not all fun and games. Sometimes
it's quite serious.
Sometimes you've got to discipline inmates.
Yep.
What form does that discipline take?
So for me, if I have been told that there's one of the prisoners has been carrying on in another area, and it's been reported up to us. So they're going to come back to the unit. They were at medical and they had a discussion that got quite heated with another staff member or another prisoner, and they're told to come back to the unit. So they'll come back to us, but we'll get a phone call in advance to say, hey, so-and-so is coming back. They're not travelling too great, or they've had a disagreement. So I personally would bring them into the office with another staff member, and we'd sit down and we'd explain. We'd talk about what happened. Tell us what happened. We would just watch to make sure they don't get too upset with what they're saying. Like, we're monitoring their behaviour, watching their body language, and just talking our way through it. Like, you just want to get an understanding. And then, of course, if it's something that they need to be disciplined on, you have to say, well, that behaviour is unacceptable.
You've breached this, and so the discipline in the form of taking away privileges. Or?
That's right. So you can you have that discussion. You can I like to give them options. Yeah. So you're not sounding like you're just giving them, you're being the directive of, you're just not going to have this or you're not going to have that. I like to say these are your options. You either have loss of contact visits for a week if it was something.
Okay.
You might not have your family come in for a week, or a limited spends at the canteen. So they have canteen options as well. So if it's that degree of you need to be separated or whatever, then that's what happens.
you need to have that authority.
There's consequences for actions.
It's not going to work if you haven't got those potential punishments that come into play.
That's right, and because we have that rapport with our prisoners in our prisoners group, they know we've got a job to do. So they will listen. They will take the directive. Some might argue the point. However, again, are they venting? Are they just, upset or disappointed that they've been caught out? And they have to be accountable.
It's interesting that you say, and I think it shows the type of officer that you are. Are they venting? Because sometimes you just got to let people vent.
You do.
Don't take it personally.
No, it's often not about you at all. No,
it might be about what you represent, but
just the
you don't take
sometimes.
it personally. And I think that's a good skill to de-escalate where possible. But when you got to be firm, you got to be firm. And there's rules, and if you break the rules, there's consequences. I asked this question, and I can't say that I've had great experience, but the longest I've spent going into prisons day in, day out, with a couple of weeks, and you feel like you're bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
Does that change as a prison officer? Because that's your work. I was probably going in there for different reasons, but you feel a little bit claustrophobic when you're in there, and depending on the prison. How does it feel for a work environment for you, going to work each day? Do you look forward to it?
I do, because every day is different. Yeah. So you never know what's going to happen for your day. You might be working in an accommodation unit, or you might be working in the gatehouse. So you're roaming more frequently out there. Yeah. So you're not stuck indoors all day.
So when you say an accommodation unit, it sounds like a hotel. But what do you mean by
similar?
What do you mean by the accommodation unit?
They house. That's where they're housed. So you might have. I currently have 94 prisoners in my accommodation unit. So that's where they sleep. That's where they eat. And then they go off to work. So once you're unlocked during the morning. Yeah. The day's yours. They go off and do what they need to do, do their courses or go to work.
Is it better to keep them active that way?
Definitely, yeah. It's positive. It's building positive relations. So some of them might not have the support with the family. Yeah. However, in prison, they soon form good friendships in there, and they join teams so that they compete against other units. Like you get that camaraderie where they want to beat the unit next to them in the cricket game or in football.
And fitting into a team is a good life skill to have.
It's vital,
to be able to be part of a team and understand you're just playing a part.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just encouraging them to do better role models for their kids as well when they get out there, and hopefully they will keep playing sport, or they'll encourage their kids to play sport.
So you said you enjoy it. I can honestly put my hand up and say I enjoyed every day I went to work as a police officer. I look forward to it. It was just exciting. And you've mentioned
rewarding.
that you didn't know what the day was going to bring.
That's right.
So is that you've been in corrective services now, what, 7 years?
Yeah, 6 years.
That's still the way you're seeing it?
I do, yeah. I love it. Like it is definitely something I look forward to every day. I've got a great team. So when things are going really well, you've got a good team, you've got good support. The days just fly. Yeah. 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts.
How's that work? How's that?
So if you're doing the 12-hour shifts, it gives you 7 on, maybe 7 off. So it's good work-life balance. Like you can often on your 7-day, like when you have 7 days off, there's nothing stopping you from going to Bali for a week. Like you can just, your roster works for you and you're making good money at the same time.
Okay, so 7 days you work the 12-hour shifts. Is that night shift or day shift or?
It goes from say 7:30 till 7:30, or so day or night. Yeah. But there's 10-hour shifts as well. Like we do 10 hours in the accommodation units.
Do you get used to the night shifts?
You do. Well, I did with nursing. So for me, it was nothing for me.
Look, I got used to it too in the cops. Now I'm not in the cops. I don't know how I'd go.
No,
I think you get into a routine. But
you do.
There's I found benefits from you working the night shifts because you're doing stuff that others are all heading to work and you're heading home.
That's right.
And it frees you up to do different things. But so there's the shift work is not something you see as a drawback.
No, definitely not. You can do more. Like you might get days off during the week, whereas everyone else is working a Monday, Friday, and they only have 2 days off on the weekend. You've got to try and fit everything in. Yeah. Whereas when you're in corrections, you could have 4 days straight off during the week, and you can book in your appointments or you can book in things. You know, your kids don't miss out on you going to school to see activities that they're doing or whatever. You're available a lot more, I think.
Flexibility.
Yeah, the flexibility is great.
So would you, you seem so positive. I bet you love nursing. We could give you any job and you go, no, this is fine. This is fine.
I loved it.
You seem to really get a buzz out of what you're doing now.
Yeah, I do. I think you've got to be satisfied in your job for work-home life balance as well. Like if you're not happy at your job, you're not going to be happy at home. Yeah. I think it's better to be a positive than work on the negatives. Yeah.
So the perception of strutting around with keys hanging off your belt and twirling a baton is not really your average day.
You don't have to be a big 6-foot burly bloke full of tattoos looking like a security guard or something to do this job. You can be like myself, 5'2", and still have all the skills that you need that you learn with your training. So
would you, if someone close to you came to you and said, I want a career in corrective services, what would be, I'm guessing what your answer would be, but what would be the negative sides of it before you say the positive sides? Does it change you as a person?
Look, I guess it can. The longer you go on, I guess you can build up some negativity because you're surrounded in that sort of environment. It can be quite a volatile situation sometimes, and if that's not something that you feel safe in the environment, which I honestly feel safe every day I come to work, I guess if it's not for you, that's an area.
Because I'm just throwing this up because I think why people are curious about what happens in jail, because we don't get to see what happens in jail.
No.
So everyone wants to know. Like I can do the 1,000 different things, but if I mention I've gone into jail, what was the jail like? People
their
are
interest,
curious about it, and their perception might not necessarily be the reality of what goes on in there, but the amount of mixing that you do with the inmates, does that wear you down at all?
Look, sometimes it does, and if you're on your 5th day straight, so you've already 50 hours in, and some of them can be asking the same questions repetitively because they've forgotten what you've said 5 minutes ago, and you're busy. It happens.
They've got time on their hands.
They
too,
do.
So
they do.
They can fixate on something.
Yeah, and they do. So that can probably be tiring. But however, if you look after yourself, like you've got your boundaries in place, you get enough sleep, you eat right. Yeah. You're on track, and I think you can overcome your fatigue or that mental exhaustion that you sometimes can carry. Yeah. And there's always someone else there as well. If you feel you can't answer the question, there's always someone else. So someone else might have a better rapport and go with that person. Like they'll help.
What type of officers do you like working with? You say you're on a team. What are the qualities in the team that you want?
I want people who are genuine people. Like I don't want people there for the wrong reasons, that just like the power struggle. Yeah. Like we were talking before about the blue and the green, and some people perceive that that's a power.
It gives you power.
Yeah, it does, but it often
insecure in your own life, but you put on a uniform.
That's right, and you can see through that, and they can see through that, and so can we. So if you're genuine, you're hardworking, you've got that empathy, you've got that compassion, you've got life skills. Like you're not coming in fresh, straight from school, and don't know much about what goes on out in the world. So the prisoners would eat you alive. if you try and tell them what to do and, you look like you're 12, they really will give you a hard time. But, there's not many. I think if you get in once you're around about in your early 20s, mid-20s, I think you've had some life experience at least.
Well, the way you describe that is not dissimilar to what I would identify as a good police officer. And, the ones that are on the power trips, they're the ones that tend to get assaulted or...
Yes, that's right.
And I'm not saying that naively. I'm serious. There was police that you would see from the moment they turned up. They had an attitude and a swagger about them, and they thought, and you look at them and you think you're just going to bring all this shit down upon yourself, because of your attitude. So the positive ones that you were talking about, they're the exact sort of qualities I see in policing. Yeah,
and it's very similar.
It works well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You've got to have that coherence with the team. You've got to all be on the same page. Yeah, supporting each other. There's
a lot of, in New South Wales, I can't speak for Victoria, but there's a lot of push for evolving prisons a different way. We talk the traditional prisons, but the stuff that you've been touching on is very much what the more progressive way of managing the prisons are, where the prisoners have got a little bit more freedom. Yeah. But freedom that they've got to do something constructive, prepare them for the outside world.
That's right.
That type of thing. Is that the way you see corrections going in what you've seen in the
definitely.
Time you've been working?
Yeah, they've got plenty of time. Like you said, they've got some downtime, but we also, we definitely encourage it as a working prison. So there is expectations that they will work, even if it's 3 hours a day. Like, get into some sort of routine, get yourself prepared, because when you come out of work, we're not going to be chasing you to make sure you're there or for your appointments. You try and get them to be responsible or more responsible, so they can start to get into routines themselves, find healthy options and choices for their day.
Okay. Where to from now? You're making another career change? You're going to become an astronaut or something after this?
No, this is me. I'm staying right where I am. I'm looking for progression. There's plenty of progression opportunities in corrections, whether you want to stay as a prison officer or develop further or go into different areas like prison intel or up into security or any. There's lots of areas.
Discuss that, because I haven't, again, in the perception, one prison officer, same role for everyone, but there's always different sections. So what are the different sections?
Yeah, so you can work in the prison intelligence unit. So that's gaining evidence, phone calls, listening to phone calls, reading the mail, intercepting visitors, that kind of stuff.
From the police, we work closely with the intel sections of corrective services.
Yeah, that's right. So working together. So there's an exciting opportunity to go into, or you can do programs yourself. You can go and you teach the programs, the drug and alcohol. You get the training. There's so many opportunities to train you up into an area that you want to do. It's like a lot of the fellas come across and they've already got industrial backgrounds or whatever. So they'll be a prison officer for a few years and they might say, right, I've got a trade in, I don't know, screen printing or something to that effect. And they'll work across the industries, and then they're only working Monday to Friday. Yeah. So they've got their weekends free.
Okay, so
there's room to move.
Different roles that you can do within. That always makes it good, doesn't it? It's not just
go with the skills that you've got, and if you've got skills from the outside.
You might get tired of doing one thing and then
that's right.
Move into the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's plenty of opportunities. You're not just stuck in one spot. Yeah.
All right. Who's the better prison officer, you or your partner?
Oh, definitely the partner. Definitely. 20 years experience, still in the job, still so well respected by all. Yeah. I think that's a great achievement. Yeah.
Okay. So you
I aspire to get there one day.
Okay, and you would thank her for the direction?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, her and her team. Her team, like I said, getting to know her team and watching them, how their rapport is together. Yeah. And amazing.
What about your friends and family? Have they accepted you that you're now a prison officer and not a nurse?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, definitely. They still come to me with questions for nursing, or your friends that still ask.
How do I fix this?
Yeah, I still get that as well. But they've accepted. Your hours are your hours. So sometimes you're not there for Christmas. Like sometimes you're working Christmas. But I was doing that with nursing as well. So they've accepted that I work 45 minutes from home, so I've got travel time. So. Yeah. You're not always around when they want you to be. However, they know that you're safe in your work, like you're enjoying your job, and there's that satisfaction.
Okay, so it's not they know you're safe. It's not they're worried on just be careful. They know you're comfortable in your spot.
Definitely, yeah.
So it was the right decision.
Definitely the right decision. Yeah, definitely, and I'd recommend it to everyone. Like it's a job that's just there's so many opportunities. You're not just stuck in the one area like we said before. You can go off and do many things.
Well, something's working for you. You seem very, very happy. So,
No, I thank you.
okay,
Yeah,
maybe it's the way to go.
yeah,
I might
for
get
sure.
sick of podcasting. Anyway, we'll see.
Options.
Options. Okay. All right. Look, thanks so much, Kylie, for coming on, and we've really enjoyed the chat. And the last couple of guests, as you know, we've looked at prisons from all sides, inside, outside, and inside and outside.
Yeah.
With Clint, but it's been interesting, and I think people that listen to this will get a sense that the prison officers that we think of, that we're exposed to on TV
TVs.
shows and movies,
Yeah.
are not necessarily the reality.
No,
And,
you don't fit the mold. You don't have to fit a mold. It's a job for anyone. Skills, no skills.
Good stuff. Thanks for coming on I Catch Killers.
All right, thank you for having me.
Cheers. That concludes our 2-week exploration of life inside a prison from all sides, which we could not have done without the assistance of Corrections Victoria. I hope you enjoyed it.